So this is the video for section 13.5, but we're actually going to call it video 3.5 because it comes between what's already made that's called video 3 and video 4. So just make sure you're supposed to be watching the video for section 13.5. So this is graphing linear equations in standard form, a different way of writing our equations. So our target today, we can graph equations that are written in standard form, and we can do that two different ways. First way, we can solve for y. So look at the equation, solve for y to get slope-intercept form. And that's what we've been using, y equals mx plus b. Okay? The second way, and we'll do examples of both of these, the second way is to find both intercepts. Okay, find both intercepts, the x and the y intercepts, and then graph from there. Okay, so we'll look at examples of that. But I want to have just the methods and the steps right here for you. So when we're looking for the intercepts, the x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis, and the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, right? Okay, so the x-intercept, to get that, I'm going to draw an example here on my graph, just a random line. Let's say that's my equation, okay? So the x-intercept, where it crosses the x-axis, is right here. And the value of that point is always going to be where y is 0, okay? So because I'm on the x-axis, that's where y has a value of 0. This is 0 for y. So to get the x-intercept, I'm going to plug in 0 for y and solve it. And what I get, like we say here, is going to be my x-intercept, comma, 0 for y. Okay? And then where it crosses the y-axis, my y-intercept, up here where it crosses the y-axis, I know I have an x value of 0 because I'm looking along the y-axis. So I haven't gone left or right, I'm at 0 for x. So if I'm solving for that, I'm going to plug in 0 for the x, and then I'm going to see what I get for my y value. So we're going to do both of examples of both of these methods, but I wanted you to have an example here. This is what we mean by an x-intercept, where it crosses the x-axis, and a y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. Okay, so what is standard form? Standard form looks like this: ax plus by, so you notice we still have an x and a y variable, equals c, where a and b and c are just constants. So an example might look like 2x plus 3y equals 12. Okay, that's an example of an equation that's written in slope-intercept form. It just has that form. And we just have to specify that a and b aren't 0. Okay, so a and b are not 0. So you have something with an x, something with a y, and it equals a number. Okay? So here's some examples, and we're going to use method 1. Well, method 1 was to get it into slope-intercept form, right? Solve for y so that it looks like y equals mx plus b, like we're used to. So I'm going to draw my line down the equation. I'm going to find my variable. I'm solving for y, so I'm trying to get that y by itself. Okay? So first, I'm going to have to move the negative 2x to the other side. We're going to still just use inverse operations to cancel out. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other side. Cross these out. So now I have 3y equals, and I'm going to write the x first, just because that's how we're used to seeing it, and then negative 6. I've just put these, rewritten them on this line here. I'm still trying to get y by itself, so now I see I'm going to have to divide by 3. And everything on this right-hand side has to be divided by 3. So I got y by itself, cool, but I need to kind of simplify this. So I'm going to highlight and I'm going to show that I have to put this together. That's 2/3, right? 2 divided by 3, 2/3 x. And then I also have to look at what this gives me. Negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. Okay, so now I have my equation in slope-intercept form. I know my slope, I know my intercept, I'm ready to graph it. So I'm going to start at negative 2, and then my slope tells me to go up 2 over 3. Okay, and from there, I can just connect them. You can keep going if you want, right? Up 2 over 3 or down 2, back 3, just to make sure you've got your line straight. And then connect them. So we started in standard form, and we graphed it. All right, let's try one more together. I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign. I'm going to find my y. This is what I'm trying to get by itself. So I'm going to cancel things out and move them to the other side. So plus 1/2 x, plus 1/2 x, cross them out. 2y equals, and I'm going to say 1/2 x and a positive 8. Well, I still have to get y by itself, so divide by 2, and all of this gets divided by 2. So that cancels, got y alone, awesome. Now I'm looking at simplifying this. Well, what's 1/2 divided by 2? Well, we get 1/4 with the x. And then what is 8 divided by 2? Well, that's 4. So I'm ready to graph it. I know my y-intercept is 4. And it's going, my slope is 1/4, so up 1 over 4. That's kind of, I'm running out of room, so I'm going to try to graph another point this way. Down 1, back 4. And now I should have enough to get my line. Whoops. A little wobbly there, but get the idea. Okay? All right, so pause it here, and I want you to try this one. Solve and get y by itself. Then once you have y equals mx plus b form, we know this is our y-intercept, this is our slope, and we can graph it from there because we've already done that. Okay, I got this far, but I wanted to point out that this is still a negative y. So you better bring down that negative, and that's one more thing I have to cancel out. So if you remember, we have to divide by -1 to cancel out the negative. Whatever we do on one side, we have to do on the other side. And then I still have to simplify over here. So -2 divided by -1, and 5 divided by -1 would be -5. Okay, so now I'm ready to graph it. It crosses at -5, and then it goes up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. So there's my line. All right. In the next section, we're going to be solving for intercepts. So I'm going to move up a little bit. So this is still same thing. We're starting with standard form, and we're just going to be finding the intercepts so that we can graph them. I do want to point out that you'll have to flip this over other side to get the graphs for these. So, all right. If I'm solving for the intercepts, we said up here, to find the x-intercept, plug in 0 for y. To find the y-intercept, plug in 0 for x. So that's what we're going to be doing. All right. So I'm going to find, on both of these, I'm going to find my x-intercept first, just so that I'm doing them the same way. So if I find my x-intercept first, that means I'm plugging in 0 for y. Well, the cool thing is in standard form, if I plug in 0 for y, this all just drops out. X is -3. That's all I need. X is -3. That's my x-intercept. So that's the point, -3, 0. Cool. I've got one point I can graph. Let's find our y-intercept. Well, for our y-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for x. See how I'm covering it up? That just becomes a 0. So I really have the equation 3y equals -3. And if I divide by 3, I get y is equal to -1. Cool. That's the point 0, -1. So I have 2 points now. My x-intercept is at -3. My y-intercept is at -1. So go ahead and flip it over. My x-intercept is at -3. And my y-intercept is at -1. And that's all I need to graph it. So I just need to connect the dots, and I've got my line. So that's graphing with intercepts. Okay, let's do another one. Back to the front. I'm at this one. Let's find our x-intercept. So plug in 0 for y. I'm covering it up. You can see here I'm going to have this drops out if I plug in 0. So it's just 5x equals negative 5. If I'm solving for x, x is negative 1. Cool. So that's the point, negative 1, 0. Let's find our y-intercept. Well, if I plug in 0 here, right, plug in 0 for x and this drops out, I just get negative y equals negative 5. We know we have to divide by negative 1 on both sides, and y would be 5. So the point 0, 5. Okay, so again, I have my x-intercept is negative 1, y-intercept is 5. Let's flip it over and graph them. X-intercept is negative 1. Okay, so I got both of those plotted. X is negative 1, y is 5, and connect them. And there's your line. Okay, so you can see we have one more. You need to pause and find both intercepts. So show your work here to find both intercepts for this last equation, and then flip it over and graph it. Push play when you're done finding and graphing. Okay, I found my x-intercept by plugging in 0 for y. Found my y-intercept by plugging in 0 for x. And I got 2 and 4. And then I plotted those. 2, 4, 2 and 4, and I got this line. All right, so let's go on to a story problem. This says your friend takes a trip to the local ski lodge. To rent a tube is $10. To rent skis is $15. Your total group spent $270. So assume each person only got a tube or a ski rental. All right, so we have two variables. We are renting tubes. We'll call that x, and we are renting skis. We'll call that y. So our equation, we can tell that it is $10 for a tube. So $10 times the number of people who get tubes, or I could just say 10x. And $15 for skis. So our total is going to keep going up with $15 times the number of people who get skis. And our total was $270. So this is why standard form is helpful, because we can kind of take one rate for, so $10 for the number of tubes, $15 for the number of skis, and add those together to get a total. It's just a handy way to write it when you have a situation like this. So let's find our intercepts. I'm going to rewrite this because I don't like those dots in there. This would just be 10x plus 15y equals 270. Okay? All right, so our x-intercept, well, we know that's plugging in 0 for y. So if I plug in 0 for y, this just drops out. And I see that I have 10x equals 270. Well, we know if I divide by 10, I would get 27 tubes. So what does this mean? Well, we plugged in 0 for skis. So 0 skis. One possibility is that nobody got skis and 27 people rented tubes. And that would come out to 270. So that's our x-intercept, 27 tubes and no skis. Our y-intercept means plug in 0 for x. So now I'm covering up the x, and I have 15y equals 270. So I'm just going to quickly see 270 divided by 15, 18 pairs of skis. So the other option, the other intercept, is that we have 18 people who rented skis and 0 people who rented tubes. Okay, that's what the intercepts mean in a context like this. So you just have to finish number 10. Pause it here, like we just did on the one we just finished, and you finish number 10. Okay, so I called pizza X and pop Y, $2 for each slice of pizza, $1.50 for each pop. The total was $12. Now, when I finished finding my intercepts, I got the points here. So one option is I could have gotten 6 slices of pizza and no pop, giving me my x-intercept, or 8 pops and no pizza, and that would be my y-intercept. And I could go on to graph these, which we'll continue to do. So the video ends here. Thanks.